Hi, friends! Hello, the world! Welcome back to this episode of Complaint Free Life. In today's episode, we're going to talk about one of the most common problems of our century. So, are we ready? You know that my goal is in life to help humanitarians, well, anyone actually, but specifically humanitarians to be living their lives the way they want to, in the places they want to, with the people they want to, without feeling like they have to only do this way or they can only do this way to make their impact, to create their impact. And my goal is to help them realize that they can do all of those things without limitations, at least not setting the limitations themselves and rather focusing on solving limitations of the world. And the way that I also want to help them is to look at their work as like masterpieces, right? So whether they want to continue helping humanitarian in the humanitarian world, how can we do our work in the way that is like a masterpiece, that we are creating the humanitarian aid in the way that looks like a masterpiece. Like, yes, we're proud of doing this way. We have done it in the most efficient way. We have done it in the way that it was most useful for people. We have done it in the way that is satisfactory and relieving and bringing pride just because we have done it in that way under those most difficult situations, circumstances, right? So this is my goal, is to help humanitarians realize that we can do all of that, we can transition to all of that. And the way that we do that is by looking at certain habits that we are continuing to have, how those habits are disturbing or not allowing us to create our work in the way that is a masterpiece, create our work in the way that is fulfilling for us. So if you're struggling with this problem, now that let me specify this problem. If you're struggling with this problem of having the urge to do more work, to do more of this, more of that, then this podcast is for you, that you need to listen to this, because we will be talking about why you're having that urge. Excuse me. We will be also talking about consequences of that, excuse me, consequences of keep having that urge, and obviously what's the solution and what to do about it in order to have the result that you want while not feeling like you need to do more, you need to do more, right? So a lot of the times that I have seen it, not only in humanitarians, but obviously in so many other people that I just meet on daily lives, we like many of us have this habit, or I think it's habit by now, but many of us have this urge that I need to be doing more. I'm not doing more. I'm not doing enough. Whatever the version of there needs to be more, right? And I think that's also reflective of how we're living our lives, is that there needs to be more of intensity of this. I don't know, intensity of the experience of I need to be proving more or deserving more or showing more, or like some kind of a more culture. And I would love to dive into why we're having that. Why are we having this urge, the constant urge of we need to do more? So notice that whenever we're having this thought of I need to do more, it's coming from some kind of scarcity or some kind of fear. Scarcity might be that I'm not doing enough, so feeling guilty, right? So, and that feeling guilty might be coming from another story that we're telling ourselves, that we should be doing more to deserve whatever we're receiving, or we should be doing more show that we're useful, or we should be doing more um, to show that we're not we're not being paid for nothing, or we should be doing more so that someone recognizes what we're doing, or we should be doing more so that the boss sees how I'm doing it, right? So whatever it is, that there is this scarcity of it's not enough, and therefore we need to do more. So that's like a big chunk of it. So the reason why we're like having this urge of doing more is because we think that we are not doing enough. Like another big chunk could be like feeling guilty because of seeing all the suffering, or seeing all these people being in these hard situations, and then we feel like we need to do more in order to help them, right? So this is one way, and we do need to do more, but I will explain to you how the consequences of I need to do more if we keep generating it from the scarcity place. What's the consequence of it? I will explain in a second. So another big part of the portion why we feel like we need to do more is because of the fear of what if I'm not doing enough? What if all of this does not make sense? Or what if um, like others are doing more, so I should do more, right? So fear of like being behind, or fear of um, others think that I'm not doing enough, so I rather do more, right? So there is some kind of like either comparison, or wanting to prove to someone that we can do more or we should do more. So this fear is moving us to be constantly available, constantly wanting to do more, just so that we are, yeah, we're there, we're showing it, we're demonstrating it, right? So, and the another big chunk of why we might be doing it is because we believe that doing more equals success. And I think this is like another big category of why we do it, is because we truly believe that the more we do it, the more successful we are. Like we will then be deserving promotion, or we can say that these are the things we did, so we deserve something better or different, right? So this could be another big chunk of like more action equals more success. You can see that the whenever we are doing this, I need to do more out of scarcity, out of fear, right? Out of guilt, or out of believing that it means more successful. Then what will happen is that we will be always in this hamster wheel of wanting to do more, wanting to do more. However, the consequences of these thoughts, these beliefs, and this urge is the consequences that we may want to be doing things even when it doesn't really make sense to do that way. I think this is like the biggest consequence that we don't realize. We don't realize is that in order to get a specific outcome, we need to think through before executing on it, right? So we need to think through as to how to do best in the efficient way, how to do it in the way that takes less resources but more outcome, how to do it in a way that takes up less energy and more of the things that we want to produce. So we need to think through and then execute in the way that makes sense. But whenever we are in this urge of I need to do more, what will happen is that we will just be keep doing more for the sake of doing it. So, in other words, we're not doing it because we're all aiming to get a particular outcome, even though that's probably what we're wanting. It's just that because the urge is so strong that we just want to be doing something, right? So, the the way that it will sound is like just let me keep doing something. It doesn't really matter what kind of a energy, right? Now, I'm not saying that all of our actions will be like, we'll just be doing for the sake of doing it, but it's just that because the urge is so like strong within us that we can't really not do things, right? Do you know what I'm saying? So the other consequence that I want to talk about is that because we can't really stop doing things, or we can't really allow ourselves to rest and to recuperate, then we will be even more tired, but also at the same time, we will be wanting to do more um, because we're not getting the results we want. So we need to now do more to get the results we want to. You know what I'm saying is that because the urge is coming from that scarcity, it's coming from that fear, it's coming from that more doing is more successful. Then instead of like balancing out, instead of taking time to rest, instead of taking time to think about things, think through things, and then planning out things and then executing it precisely, we just want to get into the habit of there's no time for rest. There's no time for thinking. There's no time for whatever we're feeling. We just need to get going and doing and keep doing it and keep doing it. Right. So, and then at some point, you will also realize that you're just being busy for the sake of being busy. It's just that now it's difficult to stop it because it has turned into a habit a little bit. So, because it's your brain realized that the more you do, the more the dopamine or the whatever the happiness or good feeling hormones are being poured in because you're saying that the more you're doing, the better. Your brain is now, keep saying, well, we need more of those chemicals to keep going. We need more of those to feel like we're doing something, even though that doing something may not be resulting in what we're actually wanting to achieve. Right. So the eventual habit becomes like the more thing we do, the better, and the better it is, the more successful it will be. Some kind of this version that our brains will wire itself, and then the solution will be more action. So doing more uh, will result in doing even more things, and then without really getting the result, we just get into this habit of more activity, and the more activity we do, the the more successful we'll be, will be somehow like our wiring. Now, the crazy part of the consequences as well is that if you stop doing it, then your brain will be, or your feeling will be, you feel guilty. You feel guilty because you will be saying, well, I'm not really doing my part. I'm not really being useful. I'm not really doing as much as others. I am not really justifying my salary or whatever the thing that you want to justify, right? So you will be explaining to yourself even more as to why you're not doing more is a problem. And then you will talk yourself into doing more so that you feel good about yourself, so that you feel good about um, why it's the solution rather than not doing anything, or rather than resting, or rather than thinking things through and then doing it. Now, my dears, all of this to say is that the urge creates more urge. If we do something out of guilt, it creates more guilt. If we do things out of fear, it creates more fear. This is all I want to summarize with this. You can see that whatever the action we're taking out of whatever feeling, it will generate more of that. So, for instance, just to highlight this point, is that if we're doing things out of guilt, right? So let's say that we have a guilt that we shouldn't be in this position with all these privileges, or we shouldn't be receiving all this money, or we shouldn't be living in this great place and earning this much when others are suffering or whatever. So let's say that this is a story that we have, right? So all of this generating the feeling of guilt. And now we're doing a lot of work because of not feeling guilty. And then, in order not to feel guilty, we need to keep doing more and more. And as long as we stop, we'll feel guilty again. You see what I'm saying? So, guilt keep producing more guilt. And therefore, we can't really stop working, because stop working means feeling guilty. And we don't want to be feeling guilty, because that's the original reason why we started working more, so we don't feel guilty, right? So that cycle will never end unless we find a better, more effective solution. And here are the solutions, my dears. I feel like it's a bit like a master class, but I hope you're still with me, even if you didn't sign up for the master class, let's say. So the solution is that we need to get rid of that urge, right? So whatever that urge is, that's coming from that scarcity, that's coming from that fear, that's coming from that guilt, that's coming from that wanting to be successful. Whatever the urge is being created from, we need to get rid of that, or we need to understand that. In other words, maybe get rid of is like very radical, but we need to understand that urge, and we need to sit with that urge. That's the solution. Whatever this urge is, we need to learn how to sit with it. Now, it's very uncomfortable. That's the reason why urge make us always do things, always move things, or move us in the ways that maybe is not really useful in the end, but we continue doing it because urge has that power within us. Urge tell us, for instance, if we're very, very hungry, right? So there is this urge to do something, and that's like a survival mechanism, and that's normal. And we go and find food, right? The same way, urge for doing more, urge for working more, for instance, is a very strong urge. And in order to uh, combat it, or in order to do something with it, the answer is not doing more. The answer is not doing anything. What? And then you'll be like, no, Sal, I can't believe this is what you're saying, because how is that possible? It's not possible, right? I mean, you could always argue with me saying that if you are having urge to eat, obviously stop eating, or sorry, not eating is not an option. We would die. Absolutely. When it comes to food or essential things that keep us alive, I have no reason to suggest that you should stop doing it. You should absolutely go for it. You should absolutely eat it. But in those circumstances, I would say don't allow yourself to come that far to create that urge. You can always schedule and then start eating, or eat in those frameworks, right? So I would say that don't let yourself bring this far. But in the case of working more, I told you the consequences, if the solution would be to do more, the consequences will continue being the same thing. So whatever we're trying to avoid, we continue having it at the end of it if we stop working. So that's not sustainable, that's not healthy, that's not useful, and that's not really getting us all the results that we want to. Because in the end of the day, we want to create those masterpieces of helping people, right? That's the goal. We want to be useful in the most useful way. We want to deliver help, aid in the way that makes sense, in the most efficient way, in the most um, effective way, so that people get what they're looking for. Excuse me, that's the goal. That the goal is not to do more and burn out. Excuse me. and then having the need to take a total break and then just hate everything, right? That's not the goal. But if we continue giving in to the urge and continue finding a solution of working more, that's where we're going. And that's not where we want to go. So that's why the solution is to learn to sit with the urge. Okay. Now, how do we do that? Let's talk about the process. Because the urge is coming from these feelings, I said, some kind of a feeling of not enoughness, right? So maybe that feeling of not enough is coming from us as a person. It can happen very often because we may have this belief that says, I'm not enough. So I need to show and prove and do so many things so that I can believe that I'm enough. This was my story, and it continues still to be my story in some of the days, but I feel like I have gotten grip of it so well now. Because if we have the belief that I'm not enough as a person, as who I am now, and I need to be proving and I need to be showing how enough I am so that I can believe when others say how great I am, how great of a person I am, then I feel good about myself, right? So if that is the story, we need to address that story because, my dears, we're all enough already. We don't need to be proving and showing in order to believe that we are, or in order we don't need to get other people's, I don't know, acceptance, recognition, or how great we are. We don't need all of that to believe that we're enough already. So ask yourself, how can you feel enough without doing anything? That's the key. How can you feel enough already? Because the feeling of enough comes from your own thoughts about yourself. So, how can you feel enough in order to feel that you are enough, whether you do something or not? And you are enough as a person already. There is no discussion, there is no question about it. So, you can stop proving that you're enough. And you can believe that you're enough already, because the other thing is what needs to happen in order for you to feel enough. I'm assuming nothing. You don't really need anyone else's permission, anyone else's recognition, anyone else's acceptance, or whatever. You can just accept yourself as being enough. So that's like a big piece why it might be happening, right? So if we get that out of the way, then we need to address another story that we might be having of deserving, right? I don't deserve this, or I don't deserve this much, or I don't deserve this privileges, whatever it is that we're having hard time deserving. And therefore we're feeling guilty, and then therefore we keep doing more. We need to address that. And then address that of, what if we don't need to deserve? What if we already are doing the most enough things that we're doing? What if doing more is not the answer? What if doing exactly the things that we think is right things to do, and we do that well, right? In other words, not the quantity that decides, but quality and the to the point work that we need to be doing. So think about that. What if you don't need to deserve any of it? What if you just decided to take up this work? You want this work, you have this work, and now it's your time to help those people in the way that you want to, in the way that you think makes sense. And you focus on that, and you don't focus on how many things you have done or the quantity, but rather how well you do that thing so that it has the maximum result for the people that you're trying to serve. Right? So this is another thing that we need to be addressing. The other thing of fear we need to be addressing, which is I have to, otherwise my boss will say something, or colleagues will think that I'm not doing enough, or whatever it is that fear is coming from. We need to address that. And we need to learn to stay with that fear. If you're fearing that someone else will be thinking something that you don't want to be thinking, let them think. Stay with that fear. That's okay. Yes, they may not like us. Yes, they may not think of us in the particular way that we want to. But what if doing more is not going to change their mind anyway? What if they have their own minds, they have their own opinions of you, of us, no matter what we do or we don't? What's important is that we are honest with ourselves to be doing things the way we want to be doing because we think that this is how it makes sense. This is how we think as professionals, this is how we should be doing, and we continue doing and working towards it. And we are honest with ourselves that we're doing our best in creating those results that we want. Right? So as long as we're honest with ourselves, as long as we're doing the best of what we can in the settings that we have, out of the intention to help those people, out of the intention to be of service to those people, then whatever others will be thinking of us can be helped. So we need to address that fear. And if you're having that fear, sit with it. It's okay. We can do many amazing things with fear as well. We don't need to be changing other people's opinion of us, or we don't need to be influencing other people's opinion of us by doing more. We just need to be doing things as professionals in the way that we think makes sense and doing those things well and gearing them towards the results, irrespective of what others might be thinking of us. Right? And the last point is to address more means success. I have understood in so many different ways that A, we can create our definition of success, obviously, and B, doing more thing is not equaling success, whatever the success we're having in mind. Success does not come from doing more. Success comes from doing things because it really truly comes from what you're wanting to do and doing it in the way that makes sense. And then keep adjusting it, keep making it so that it creates the results we want. And then we feel successful. So success is not coming from the quantity, even though a lot of the times our brains want to say that the more we earn, the more successful we are, the better or the bigger titles we have, the bigger success we have, or whatever it is, right? But it all makes us keep chasing things if we're not careful. It all will make us keep feeling like we have never arrived because we want the next best thing, the next more things and all the things. So that's why it's time for us to recognize that what if we have success when we deliver that aid in the best way, that's successful. What if we have success not by doing more or not by killing ourselves or exhausting our energies, but rather by focusing, by planning it well, by executing it on time, by doing it things because we believe it makes sense, not because we just have to do things this way or we just need to keep doing this way. Right. So that's why like not only defining what success means, but also looking at whatever you are doing more of, is it really creating the success that you want to? Not the success that everyone else like seems to agree on, but rather, is that really giving you the feeling of you are being successful or not? And I'm assuming no. Because I think success is also when we know how to really show up the way we want to or who we really are. Success is really when we do enjoy the process as well as the result, right? Success is also when we are really having this feeling of we are doing the thing, we're making the difference, we are helping the people that we want to serve, we are doing things in the way we want to. Success is really also how we are contributing, how we are elevating the suffering. And all of this can be success as well. So success is really like usually the feeling that comes when we feel like we have done something, when we feel like we have achieved something. And all of that we can start achieving now instead of keep waiting for that big glorious promotion or big something or big amount or whatever it is that we usually tend to believe success is. So that's why doing more is not equaling success. And whatever you're feeling like you're doing more now and that's creating success, really understand what that is. Because success, I'm realizing more and more, as I said, is coming from how much fulfillment we're receiving from working, how much we're showing up the way we are, how much we're actually being of use or service to the people we want to. All of this gives us a sense of success, sense of being part, sense of being useful, sense of getting fulfillment, sense of pride. All of this constitutes success. So, if we are wanting to have the life where we are doing things out of um, out of wanting to do things, out of this is how it should be, or out of this is what will bring us the success we're wanting, this is what will bring us the result we're wanting, when we're doing it out of that groundedness, out of understanding why we're doing it, feeling like this is exactly what we're supposed to do, this is how we're supposed to do, and we're doing it, then the success is inevitable. Then the result is inevitable. But if we keep doing more of the things that uh, or like if we keep doing out of this urge of we need to do more, we need to do this, we need to do that, and then without really resting and thinking through and reflecting on things, without really doing all of those things or reflecting as to how this is aligned with what we're supposed to do, how this is aligned with our values, how this is really actually what we're meant to be doing, or this is the result that we're getting. If we don't really take time to be thinking about those things, reflecting about those things, and if we're resting and then having our neurons shine in fresh ways, if we're not doing that, then it will always feel like it's a hamster wheel. It will always feel like it's never enough. It will always feel like we need more and we need more. And I think it's time to reconsider needing more and time to reconsider what is the result that we're really wanting, and doing more, is that really getting us the result we're wanting? If those two don't match, then it's time to rethink things and it's time to do things, only those things that create the result, and remove everything else. Okay, my dears, I hope this podcast was useful for you, that you could see the your patterns of how you might be getting into the pattern of you need to do more in order to, and let's reconsider that. Let's start sitting with that urge and finding out where that urge is coming from. And if we address the sources of that urge, then how we will change our lives, how we will have the mind space, the mental space, the physical energy to be doing things exactly the way we want to be doing things exactly the way we want to, so that we have that fulfillment, so that we have that pride, so that we have that use, that we have that service and feeling good about it because we did it. Thank you so much. See you next Friday.